Fantastic. Well, I'm going to launch the poll now because it will be good for us to see what everyone is doing today. So can everyone see the poll?
Mhm.
All right, looks like we got some participants. The question is, do you outline your SEO content today? The options are yes, no, and sort of, because not all of us are binary people. So, and I'm glad I added sort of because we got a lot of people in there. Great. Okay, so far we're 20% yes, 20% no. Oh, now it's even less, 19, 19, and then 63% sort of, which is fantastic because that's honestly what I like to hear. It means you're like sort of, you're making an effort and you see areas for improvement. So that's great. All right, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results so everyone can see. I don't even know like what it looks like. Can you guys see the results of the poll? Abby and Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great, cool. And I'm sure the attendees can as well. All right. Let's introduce ourselves real quick. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chantal. I'm the Director of Marketing at Demandwell. I'll kick it over to Abby, who's a fresh new face on the SG Weekly, I don't know what to call it, scene.
Hi, I'm Abby. Happy to be here. Long time listener, first time caller. I'm an SEO success manager here at Demandwell, so I work directly with our customers on SEO strategy, keyword strategy, and just bringing it all to life.
And I'm Eric. I'm a marketing manager at Demandwell. I'm in charge of Demandwell's organic and SEO internally. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, this is Eric's second time. So real quickly, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, but last week we talked about keyword research for what terms to go after, and I have a link here if you wanna watch that. We recorded it. I'm gonna drop it into the chat. This week, we're talking about the keyword research for an individual page. So last week we focused a lot on like what terms should you go after? How should you think about that? How does it fit into your like marketing funnel and strategy? This week is very page oriented of, okay, now you've decided the term that you want to go after and you want to create a page that's going to rank for that term. How do you do that? And how does outlining fit into that to make you more likely to succeed? So a quick overview of the content for today. We're going to be talking about how to do keyword research, how to build an outline, why human intervention is so important in this whole process. And then we'll talk about how to create conversion-oriented pages. And we'll share a bunch of examples of pillar pages or, conversion pillar pages with different levels of intent in terms of what the searcher is looking for. And then we will show you toward the end what this process looks like in the Demandwell platform. So for starters, keyword research outside of Demandwell. If you're just a normal person and you're not a Demandwell customer, where do you go when you need to look up keywords to include in your content? These are some common things that we see. Feel free to drop in the chat if you're using any other tools, free or otherwise, like I don't care. Whatever tools you're using to search for terms. The main things that I personally use when I find myself in a position where I need to do keyword research are SEMrush, Google Keyword Planner, and then sometimes I also do look at the what's ranking at the top for that term. And I kind of try to get a sense that way of like what I think they used. And sometimes I just use SEMrush for that but Abby, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, when I started at Demandwell, my first thought was like, how did I do keyword research before I got here because the tool is so good? But I do still use SEMrush sometimes. I also like to use I guess it's a little outside of outlining, but just a really valuable tool when just understanding kind of the landscape of a term and the popularity. I really like Google Trends as well, just to kind of see how two terms compare to each other if you're trying to think about, how you might want to phrase something or how, understand better how people are thinking about referring to or, understanding a topic. Google Trends is really good for comparing two keywords in popularity. But yeah, so
that's great.
just go into Google too is is a good way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. One thing we talked about when we were like prepping for this conversation was the final bullet, your own expertise. That we're going to talk a lot about that today. But I'm curious, Abby, like if you want to give everyone a quick overview of why that's so important, I think that would be an awesome thing.
Yeah, SEO, like most of marketing, is an art and a science. There are a lot of, pretty like templatized scientific elements of keyword research and SEO that these tools can really help you identify and produce. Most of those keywords are semantically related. So you're going to get all kinds of variations on a term or co-occurrence terms or related questions to your target keyword that come out of these tools. But the biggest thing that your own expertise contributes, and is a really important factor for SEO content, is more contextual clues about the topic. So what do you need to talk about in an article about content marketing? You can't just say content marketing over and over 100 different ways. You've got to give some clues about different channels, and the expertise that you bring to the table is what can help inform those terms and really paint a complete picture.
Yeah. My very first job out of college, I was a content marketer, and my manager at the time, I don't know what her title was. I think she might have been a content marketing manager, and maybe I was a content marketing associate, but she advised me to decide what term I wanted the blog post to be ranked for, and then basically just like repeat that single term throughout the copy. So this was like not quite 10 years ago, but like coming up on that. And it's just so funny how far I personally have come on this journey. My second iteration was I would go to Google Keyword Planner and I would like include the terms that it suggested, but I didn't really understand the difference between semantically related and contextually related and why that's so important. So super happy that we're going to be talking about that next. So what do we mean? I guess like, just to like double click on that trip down memory lane, we know that there's this one core term that we want a page to rank for, and it's important that that term exists in various places on the page. Of course, we also know that you need to include relevant terms to that in the page itself in various ways. We'll talk later about H1s and H2s. There's also obviously like the paragraph content of the page. But diving in a little bit to these related terms, like what do we mean when we say contextually related versus semantically related? And I think this does a really good job. This screenshot is looking kind of blurry for me right now, so apologies if it's blurry for everyone, but Abby came up with the example of the Chicago Bulls. When we were talking last, she was like, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but Chicago Bulls, like, let's go with it.
Michael Jordan.
So if you go into SEMrush and you go into their like keyword tool and you type in Chicago Bulls, all of these related terms are semantically related terms, and they include Chicago Bulls. So it's saying Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bulls standings, Chicago Bulls news, Chicago Bulls schedule, Chicago Bulls games. Like, it's just like, wow, that's a lot of times to say Chicago Bulls in a single page. And also like, it's not giving that much breadth to the topic at all. Whereas contextually related terms, which we'll kind of show you what we mean in a few slides, strengthen what Google is looking at to kind of qualify whether or not a page is a good quality page. So we're going to talk a little bit about EEAT real quick, or double EAT, as some like to say. And I'm going to do slideshow mode for this because there's a really fun animation. So, okay. So double EAT stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. And we believe that the reason that contextually related terms is so important is that it's a manifestation and sort of quantifiable way to demonstrate the experience of the creator and the expertise of the creator. So if you're someone who knows nothing about the Chicago Bulls, like myself, I literally wrote MBA instead of NBA in the slide earlier, and Eric caught it and was like, I think there's a typo. And I was like, no, I'm just a noob. If I had no expertise or experience and were creating an article about the Chicago Bulls, I would have a lot of semantically related terms. However, okay, so just diving a little bit deeper into double EAT here real quick. So things that Google are saying is The content needs to provide substantial, complete, and comprehensive description of the topic. It needs to be insightful and interesting beyond the obvious. Okay, I think that's like another that also it still stands with my own personal Chicago Bulls experience. After reading your content, someone leaves feeling they've learned enough to achieve their goal, and the content is not primarily made to attract visits from search engines. So you can, I think, I don't know if either of you guys want to like connect the dots for me here. I feel like I'm like giving a lot of information and not doing a good job like summarizing it, but we'll get there. Okay, so this I think does a good job summarizing like the difference between semantically related and contextually related. If you're just doing the semantically related stuff and you don't actually know that much about the topic, you might end up with a lot of keywords that look like this. If you know a lot about the topic and you're crafting content that's going to be really helpful and insightful and not just for search engines, but actually for the people reading, you might want to include things like this, where you're talking about the NBA, you're talking about basketball, you're talking about famous players and coaches, famous rivalries, like Bulls culture. Like you can imagine how someone who really knows about this topic, these things will come up, and Google is looking for those types of cues that you're actually an expert. So that's why we believe that contextually related terms are so important. I'll stop now. Would you guys like to add anything?
I'll just say that like some of those contextual terms, if you dig deep enough into like the terms on the left, all of those semantically related terms, like looking at, you know, Chicago Bulls standings or stats or something like that, like you would have to, in order to write a good paragraph about that or a good article, you would have to talk about, you know, name some individual players and what their stats are, name, you know, the standings in their conference and who they're playing next in the schedule. So like, think of some of those semantic keywords that you get in these tools as really great starting points for section headers, and then use the contextual keywords as a way to fill out those paragraphs and provide the information that you need to say something worthwhile about standings, news, and schedule.
Yeah, I'll also say like with all of these keyword research tools, like if you go down the list deep enough, you often will, it's not like they only share semantically related terms, obviously. Like sometimes they do a good job including contextually related terms. They're just like at the bottom of the list, or you're like wading through like 85% semantically related for like those really good nuggets of like really good contextually related terms.
And they don't get a lot of volume too. So I think it is worth digging at the bottom of the pot for some of those lower volume keywords to add into your content, because a lot of the long tail or contextually relevant keywords will have like 10 monthly searches or 20 monthly searches. And you may miss it if you're just trying to find high volume keywords to add.
Yeah. Let's like think about this when you show in the platform.
Yeah.
You can give some examples. That's cool. Good idea. Okay. So this is why that we believe human intervention is so important, because if you just followed exactly what these keyword research tools are telling you to do, you'd end up with a ton of semantically related terms and potentially an article that doesn't make you seem like an expert, which is bad for search. So the contextual, I have an example actually that I can share here for contextual relevance. I think like in my last company, the software that we sold was for customer service quality assurance. And so like our dream term to rank for would be customer service quality assurance platform or software or whatever. And when you look at related keywords for that topic, you get a lot of variations of the same. So it'll be like customer service instead of customer support, or it would be quality control instead of quality assurance. Like just like you can get like 16 variations just by swapping out those things. However, there are lots of things that people really care about that are incredibly related to that don't look like that keyword. So for instance, in customer support, there's this metric called customer satisfaction. That's like the gold standard metric you're trying to go for. It's like the MQL or revenue of marketing or pipeline. Like, and so, and people use quality assurance to try and improve customer satisfaction. So like if you wrote an article about quality assurance and you didn't mention customer satisfaction, that would just be like trigger to a reader that you really don't know what you're talking about, basically. But related search, like all these keyword tools might not suggest that we should include that in the article. So that's one reason I think why the relevance and the context is like really important to come from a person. And then the second thing that I would say is like, you know, these keyword research tools are providing information based on the trends that they're seeing in the way that people search, but that might be completely irrelevant to your business. Like, would customer support and marketing have been said in the same breath prior to like HubSpot making Marketing Hub, Service Hub? Like, for them, if they're writing an article about like their Service Hub, they might want to mention the automation potential that exists between Service Hub and Marketing Hub. But like a different customer service company might never mention marketing because they don't have a marketing offering, but that's like really important for HubSpot. And of course, like Google is not going to deliver those terms to you because they're not going to customize that way for you specifically. They're just looking at like high level trends. So yeah, we really believe in the human touch.
Yeah, and that makes me think of something too, that, you know, not only like what, you know, what's unique or important for your business, but thinking about it in terms of what are the questions or problems that your audience is trying to solve, you know, that, and I think that's where like that, you know, customer satisfaction, success, quality, like comes into play, because, you know, that allows you to think of it from the audience's perspective. What are they trying to solve? What's their, you know, what's their pain point? And to think about incorporating keywords that, you know, come at it from both the problem and solution side of things.
Totally. Eric, do you want to add anything? Cool. Also, everyone, feel free to drop thoughts, questions in the chat. Feel free to use the Q&A window. We'd love to hear from you. Okay. We're next going to talk about how you outline, including these related keywords. And hopefully we'll kind of come away with a bit of a recipe for success here. But first, I'm going to do 2 more polls so that we can get a sense of where everyone is starting from, which will help us better customize what we're saying. All right. What do you include in your outlines? The poll is launched. And the options are semantically related terms, contextually related terms, word count, instructions for the writer if it's not you, H1 and H2 planning, and then anything else. And if it's something else, I'd love to see it in the chat. Awesome. We got some good answers coming in. Wow, this is great. Okay, I'm going to give like 3 more seconds. So if you have yet to engage, please do. All right. This is so fun to watch it come in live. I wish everyone could see it. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share the results here. Okay. So super interesting. We have semantically related terms in the house, gotta have them. We have contextually related, fantastic. We have word count, we have instructions for the writer. If you're not the writer, H1 and H2 planning wins this competition. It wasn't a competition initially, but now it is. So that's really good. And those are super important, obviously. So like, it's good that those are at the top of the list. And then one other who has not dropped their other in the chat, which I'm dying to know what it is. Whoever you are, please let us know. Okay.
Oh, I think I see something. A couple people have dropped other things. Like someone mentioned things they've seen in search, such as listicles or things that they're seeing in the long form copy.
Cool. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Someone mentioned outbound links.
Outbound links. Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Hell yeah. I love to see that. And Drawer, we will be sending a copy of this presentation in an email after the webinar. Thank you for asking. Meta titles, meta descriptions. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Cool. Great. I love that. Okay. We're going to do one more poll real quick before we continue, just so that we know, just so that we can customize what we're saying. So poll has started. The question is, who is writing your SEO content today? Is it you, someone on your team, an outsourced agency, or an outsourced freelancer? Oh, damn it. The last one I did a dog emoji because I was like, we need a joke in here somewhere. So if your dog is rating it, that's the final option. I guess no one's dogs are writing their SEO content. Oh, we got one. Okay. Thank God. Oh, cool. Okay, wow. So far, someone on my team is by far the highest number. And I'm curious if you guys wouldn't mind dropping in the chat. Is it someone that you manage or is it a peer? Because I think that could change the way that we approach this. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share it with everyone. So we got 8 people who are doing it themselves. God bless. We got 12 people who have a team member doing it. We have 2 outsourced agencies and 4 outsourced freelancers and 1 dog. So there you have it. For whatever it's worth, at Manuel, we use freelancers for the most part, right? I guess we have an agency now, actually. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. So mostly someone on your team, and then we have kind of it runs the gamut in terms of what's being included in outlines. It's really good to know. So, Abby, I'm going to lean on you here for this. I'll give a quick overview and then I would love to get your thoughts.
Yeah.
Our outlining recipe basically includes a target for keyword density, H1s and H2s, and guidance on which terms should go in those titles and headers. We typically break it out into 8 sections so that you have basically 7 H2s and 1 H1, and then a bunch of paragraph copy. And we also include word count for each section. So, we're preparing this for someone else to write. It used to be freelancers, now it's agency. And so we try to give target word counts for each section. One thing I will say real quick is that we do target 1,500 words, and Google does literally say like word count does not matter, but we just see over and over again that like if you're around that sweet spot, those are the pages that rank better than shorter pages. So take that with whatever grain of salt or however much salt you need to like feel good. Cool. And then instructions, if you're working with freelancers, how do you set them up for success? And then related to freelancers, now it's like, well, people are using AI for this stuff and people are actually using AI to build outlines now. So definitely want to chat about that as well.
Yeah, so I'll just work our way down the list. Regarding keyword density, Google recommends 1 to 3% keyword density. And when we think about that, like at least in the outlines that we're generating and building, those are like all of the keywords that we deem as relevant, related, and important to include to help rank, maybe contextually, maybe semantically related, but that 1 to 3% for 1,500 word count piece is 15 to 45 words, keywords. 45 tends to feel a little keyword stuffed. So we usually end up more in the like 20 to 25 keyword range for 1,500 word count piece. That allows you to get in, terms that fit with the topic of every section or paragraph, but not feel like overstuffed. I'm seeing coming in the chat, recommendations, do they change for a service page versus the blog? And I think this is really great to jump on when we're talking about word count, keyword density, things like that. So where we come from mostly in our SEO strategy, and I think is just kind of the case in general for the internet, where you publish content on your site, in terms of like where it falls, URL structure, if it's a blog post, if it's a page, these things don't matter so much for SEO. They matter a lot for user experience and the people coming to your site and how they find content. So, if you are publishing content in your blog that people are, finding as they browse your site, you want that to be more thought leadership, more, kind of cutting edge, brand focused. content versus a lot of SEO content is that long form, like Wikipedia style content that, people aren't probably going to stumble across on your site as they're, browsing your, product features in your blog and things like that. So recommendations for, these recommendations that we're talking about are really just for any SEO performance copy, like the content that you're writing that you want to perform well on search, regardless of where you publish it. So if you have, a blog post that you are, answering a question, a high level, top of funnel question, educational content that, is relevant to, keywords, you want this post to do well, then we would follow all of the same advice. If it's a blog post that's really more about thought leadership and, promoting something, within your product or your brand, you can throw all of this out the window because it's more about, you're going to attract people to that content through other channels. And that's more about like getting people to convert rather than attracting them to that page.
Yeah, I think like we have a maybe hot take opinion. I'm not really sure like where the rest of the market stands on this, but we think of SEO content and thought leadership content as like very separate things. And curious if people have differing opinions. Like we definitely have some customers that take a very like thought leadership quality type of content approach to the way that they write SEO content, and they just they follow the sort of like quantifiable rules of keywords and length and all of this stuff, but then they have like an internal writer write it and make it really good and make sure their brand voice is on par and like all these things. Whereas we definitely opt for more of like this is basically like your Wikipedia sort of section of your site that's like a library of SEO performance content that will get you on the map. So I'm really curious.
Can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, of course. Well, Max, I love this. I write thought leadership content and don't think about keywords at all. Yeah, that's how we do it also. Like when I write a blog for the website, I'm just like going for it and not really looking at keywords. All right, Eric, what's
So
up?
I just wanted to share what we're talking about, where this is our sitemap. Our SEO content, you can't really find it from our homepage. It pretty much lives on the sitemap. If you scroll down, you can see this is our blog. It's a pretty sizable blog, but then if you go to our SEO articles, I can just keep scrolling, and this is all of our content. Some of these pages, what I've done is I've used our blog content as kind of content downloads on these SEO pages, so we can still route traffic back to the blog, but we're not trying really to get our blog to rank on Google. That's not really where we're focusing our SEO efforts. And I think as kind of a consequence of publishing so much SEO content, a lot of our blog posts have started to rank sometimes, just coincidentally, Google has started promoting these. But we haven't really tried to drive traffic to our blog through Google search directly.
Yeah, one thing that I'll add though is like I do think this kind of depends on the company because
yeah.
And we've developed a type of page that we call an FAQ page that is like 750 words, right? And there's a video at the top and it's answering a really long tail question for people. And I don't know that we've seen that much success with it yet, but I do know like one of our customers, Seismic, they have an enablement center kind of, which is where they've like put a lot of their SEO content. So there is some flexibility in terms of like how you package these things and where they live on your website. But yeah, for the most part, we just go for like a freestanding page that then lives on the sitemap, but can't be discovered any other way on the site.
And I think we've got some examples later on in the deck, but there are ways to, like, if you've got, your key term, pillar page, pillar keyword, that is like highly relevant to your audience. You've got, maybe something that's kind of new in the market. Like there's so much, AI. We have a lot of customers that work in the AI space, and there's a lot of questions around like, what is this? Like,
Mhm.
what is, how do you use AI in marketing? What is AI recruiting? And to have that, explainer content, that like encyclopedic, what is content, that people actually like need to know the answers to give them some like a foundation to be able to explore the rest of your site. That kind of content can be really, really great, featured more prominently, or in a
Mhm.
more discoverable place on your site. So there's ways to do SEO content that is like highly relevant and highly educational to a browsing audience, in addition to an audience
Searching
that's searching on
audience.
Google.
Yeah.
And even that is like not necessarily thought leadership. It's not, it's evergreen, but it is, in some cases, in many cases, worth featuring on your site in a visible way.
Mhm. All right, back to my screen. Can you see the deck again?
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna bounce around a little bit because we talked
Mhm.
about keyword density in terms of, percentage of word count. So that 1,500 words, yeah, there's, a lot of opinions on this. And even like when you Google it, like some of the first results are like, it doesn't matter. And Google
Yeah.
says it doesn't matter. But, when you actually look at what the results are, you can see that it kind of does. Like there wouldn't be that average of like a really high word count if it didn't come into play somehow. But I think what it really is how much do you need to say about a topic to cover it thoroughly?
Mhm.
If you can do that in 500 words, awesome. That seems really hard.
Yeah.
And usually in order to, you know, talk in the level of detail, to write in the level of detail that you need to cover something, in the depth that you is going to be helpful, and kind of hit those double EAT
Yeah.
points, it ends up being a longer word count piece.
Word count is like the confounding variable, or like the thing that's highly correlated with like the expertise and the experience.
Mhm.
So it's like they're not actually rating just on word count, but word count is often a result of like really in-depth, good content.
Yep, exactly. And then so, back to H1s and H2s, those headers, and I think, that we kind of touched on that a little bit with the bulls example. Those are the big points, the big questions, the big, kind of subcategories that people are thinking about, people are asking about when it comes to that target term. So, using those strategically, both from like a like topical perspective and how the content flows, and knowing like, all right, here's what we should be including to thoroughly address this topic, but then also just making sure that you've got the most comprehensive explanatory keywords to kind of address those sections. Another thing I'll say about H1s and H2s, and we run into this a lot, and it kind of goes back to that question of like, how how engaging should this content be? Like, depending on where you fall on that camp, or like where you plan to publish this content on your site, you could just have the straight keyword as your H2. Some cases, a lot of people where they are publishing SEO content in a more visible place, whether it's your blog or like a knowledge
Mhm.
center, incorporate that keyword into your headings. But you can say more around it. You can make those a little bit more engaging, a little bit more playful. Just make sure you still are incorporating a target keyword, or a related keyword in your H1s and H2s.
Mhm.
And then for working with freelancers, it is the case a lot of times that somebody else is writing this content,
Mhm.
not the person who wrote the outline, although, from poll, some of you are writing your own SEO content, or you've got people that you work closely with on your teams who are writing it. So maybe a little easier to communicate there. But I think, and somebody, Max mentioned, writes thought leadership content, doesn't think about keywords. There are so many really, really good copywriters that don't have like SEO knowledge.
Mhm.
So the instructions that you provide in these outlines for, how to write for SEO are really, really helpful, because, a lot of times people are just, trying to write a good article, and as you should be as a good writer, but giving the level of direction that you need to say, all right, here's what we need to do to make sure that this is not only a good article, but that it ranks and it includes all the things that we need to. So usually in our directions or instructions, there's, some level of like, how much do we want to feature the brand in this content? Should it be like strictly encyclopedic, or do we want to relate it back to, our products and features? And, how much brand voice should we be including? That's a really personal decision. But, how to incorporate the keywords in every section, and just basically kind of the angle to take. References, both, internal references, external references, to help provide some context, is all really helpful. And I will say that those instructions are even more important if you are using AI to generate your content.
Mhm.
And the best way to do that, we've found, and this is how it works with Demandwell's managed AI, is the outputs that we get are on a section by section basis. So writing really clear instructions to say, like, write a 300-word paragraph about the what the 94 Bulls Pacers semifinals in the playoffs, and
In the NBA playoffs,
in the NBA playoffs, the National Basketball Association,
not the Masters of Business, so whatever it is.
So, get as detailed as you can in those instructions. Make sure that if there are any really key points that you want the human or AI writer to include, that you just reference those in those instructions. And then as far as using AI for building outlines, this can also be really helpful if you are not necessarily the expert on this topic. If you are if you're building outlines to send to, subject matter experts within your company to write more in depth on, but you're like, I don't really know exactly what to include. A lot of times the AI is going to have, some more of those contextual points to include. So what I do a lot is just say, like, hey, ChatGPT, what are all the benefits of, using ABC for XYZ? And then it's going to give me these benefits. And then I know, okay, these are sections that I need to make sure that I include in this article, and then send for somebody else to go write. So it can kind of help if you're feeling stuck with, what are some of those subcategories or semantically related topics or keywords that I need to think about. It can kind of just help generate some ideas there.
Awesome. And if anyone has like pointers that they've kind of been figuring out recently on working with freelancers or how to use AI in this process at all, like, please drop them in the chat. I'm sure everyone would love to hear what you've uncovered.
One thing
Okay.
I've noticed
Go ahead.
freelancers actually was if you're planning on starting a more long-term relationship with a freelancer or a writer, sharing or building a resource about your company and what you do and what your features are and how to write about them for them to reference whenever they're writing. I think that's really helpful. So you don't have to write those instructions over and over again when you're feeding those outlines to them. They have a resource to get familiar with that they can just have at their disposal. And in your instructions, you can say, write about this tool on our platform, and they have a resource already that talks about like what that is and what it does. So you don't have to go into detail every single time.
Yeah, and to someone's point earlier, like, you want to provide information on where people should link to. Like, that's a good way to do that as well, where it's like, if we're ever talking about this type of software, like, this is our main pillar page for that, by the way. So like, you can use it as a resource and also feel free to link to that. Yeah, there's a lot of good. It's a good example of like short-term pain, long-term gain. Like, take the time to prepare in advance and it will really pay off. Eric, I feel like when we first were getting started, we made a bunch of videos in a guide for freelancers, and they were like out of date immediately because we changed the platform and like, classic. So be careful with video because it's just hard to edit. But all right, we got a chat. Okay, Drawer has a really good point. I'm gonna drop this in the chat for everyone because it looks like it was only sent to hosts and panelists. So for working with ChatGPT for outlining is
Tell ChatGPT to make the outline and then use that outline to say, now write this article.
Can you write it? That's amazing.
Wow.
We should try that.
I love it.
That's very cool.
It works really well. Man,
Cool.
that's
awesome.
Good to know.
That's
I
so
think
funny.
The thing that you'll want to do to kind of go alongside of that is go through that article that ChatGPT has delivered to you and pair it with the keyword research that you have and make sure that the terms that if they weren't already in the outline, make sure those terms are included, pepper them in, work them in a natural way. But yeah, I mean, I love that. Let's see, George says provide a list of 10 keywords I could rank for X product, provide a list of 10 articles I could also write to rank for those keywords. Yeah, just let the robots do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have one customer that likes to generate text with ChatGPT, and then they'll use Demandwell to get a list of keywords, and then we have a content analyzer that will tell you if the keywords are in the content, and they'll just go down the list and add the keywords into the copy until all of the buttons go green and the keywords are added. Yeah, it is pretty easy once you have the copy written to go ahead and add the keywords after the fact if you want to work that way instead of trying to write for the keywords.
All right. Oopsie. We're gonna go back a little. Okay, so just to quickly talk about what we mean when we say pillar pages or demand pages or SEO conversion pages. And then we'll share some examples. So essentially we believe in like creating a landing page almost. It's like as if you're thinking about for paid ads, I'm trying to show up for this keyword and I'm trying to get people to take a specific action. Like, how can you basically apply that where instead of putting money behind a page, you're putting SEO copy at the bottom? So above the fold, you have a clear message aligned with your target term and aligned with the reason that people are landing on that page. You can have CTAs throughout. They can be like very brand oriented. Some people have video, some people have like they're promoting ebooks related to the term. Visuals, snackable content, like summarized content, logos, other trust elements like that to demonstrate that you're a legit company that is offering exactly what they're looking for. And then you have your long form SEO copy. And like we've talked about, like the format definitely changes depending on company and the intent of the page and all of these things. So we can share some examples right now. So, and Abby, you can kind of talk through why we chose these ones.
Yeah. So
I can ever get out of this exit slideshow. Okay, cool.
Find them. This first one here. They are a customer of ours that I work with. And this is the example I was thinking of when I was talking about, where you can include SEO copy in a more visible place in your site. So they have this knowledge center that's linked in the main navigation and the resources.
Yeah.
And they have lots of basically what is content in here. So what is recruiting automation? What is DIB? What is whatever, like some, kind of foundational elements of their business that somebody in HR, might need to learn more about this as, a point of entry into being interested in working with Find Them. So
Mhm.
they've got all this knowledge center content. And if you scroll down here, you'll see all of this really great evergreen encyclopedic, details for what is recruiting automation, everything that goes into it, benefits, examples, like all the things you get in an SEO article. But the intent of this page is to educate. So you lead with the education, you lead with the answers. There are a few calls to action in here, some downloads, request a demo or contact, but for the most part, you're just giving people the answer to the question that led them here in the first place.
This is a really good example too. If we click on the knowledge center, like it kind of looks like a blog. But this is their core way of getting SEO content into the world through their site.
Yep. And this is kind of what put them on the map for a lot of those keywords.
Yeah, that's cool.
I would like to also call out that URL slug for the what is recruiting automation. If you just go back,
See if I can find it.
It is best practice.
Got 'em right.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm guessing that all of their SEO content is under that folder of Knowledge Center. So that makes it really easy to find your SEO pages in different analytics software where if you can sort your web pages by Knowledge Center.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Whatever, subfolder you put that in, some people do articles, info, knowledge center. If they are all in your blog, maybe having them in a particular category. But yeah, that is such a good point. It makes it so much easier to track those in analytics and see all of your SEO content in one place.
Yeah. And I wrote a note about this here, but you were also saying that they have more conversion oriented pages for like really bottom of funnel terms.
Yeah. So the differentiator between that and then, the other ones that we have here is like, those are top of funnel, in education intent keywords. So, when we're looking at terms that have modifiers like software, tool, solution, platform, those are really great opportunities for those bottom of funnel, like conversion oriented SEO pages. But when somebody's just trying to find the answer to a question, don't, make them dig through all of your product features before you answer that question. Just answer the question.
I will plug real quick. Last week's session, we talked a lot about like different levels of intent for different keywords and like how to distinguish between top of funnel and bottom of funnel and like how to make sure you're covering that. So guys, if you weren't there, definitely try to watch the one from last week because that's a really good point that Abby makes. Okay, let's show this one. Someone is searching for cottage food law, New York State. Talk to us.
Yeah, so they've got, a little intro, opportunity to subscribe. And then if you scroll down a little bit, we've got these nice little, we've still got to incorporate snackable content. So like these little nuggets, but these are directly related to, these are questions and answers about cottage food laws in New York. So where can you sell, what kinds of foods, what's on my labels. So still like, visually appealing and engaging, little tidbits. And then below that is all of the long form, much more detailed about all of the specific cottage food laws in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how they got on the map in terms of having SEO as the main distribution channel for this topic. They're capturing that demand, but it's pretty top of funnel. So they're answering the questions as quickly as they can at the top. It's really good. We are running short on time, so I'm just going to really quickly talk about this more bottom of funnel page. And then I want to make sure Eric has a moment to show us what this looks like in the platform. This is a pretty bottom of funnel term. Someone is searching content creation software. So what we've done with this page is that at the very top, they have an opportunity to schedule a demo if they so choose. And if not, we have this is basically a features page for our content creation solution. And it talks about the value of, automating, scaling, and how we do that. So that's just a bottom of funnel example that's like very product oriented. And then last thing that I'll say before I pass it over to Eric is, if this is interesting to you, but seems overwhelming, or you are not sure exactly how to do it, or you want to outsource part of it, or you want to enable a junior team member to own it, Demandwell can definitely help. So if you're interested in a demo, feel free to just drop your email in the chat to me and I can make sure someone reaches out to you, or Matt is going to drop a link in the chat if you want to schedule a demo. And with that, over to Eric. Take it away.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, this is what the brief builder looks like in the platform. We can see the keyword we're targeting up here, how many keywords are currently in here. This is going to be a 1,500 word article. Got the H1, and then you can see the H2 for each section up here at the top. We have 6 sections here. The keywords are drag and drop. So when you open up the brief, it'll automatically be populated with keywords. And for example, what is SEO automation? If we wanted to add something about AI, we could add some things here.
Can you share what you're looking for when you're dragging keywords into your sections?
Yeah.
Like, how are you prioritizing that?
Yeah, so there are going to be some keywords that I want to pull out from these sections that I don't really want to incorporate into the content. For example, you can see a lot of free over here on the left. Demandwell is not exactly free, so I don't really want to be talking about free SEO tools. That's not really related to what we're doing. There's a lot of things about like Python that's not related. So I want to keep it focused on what Demandwell can do, and focus on writing content that reflects what we do and who we are.
Yeah. We also see a lot of times, like sometimes competitor terms will come up regularly, and we're able to like set exclusions, as you can see down there. Like if you truly never want to see the word free ever again, like you can exclude it. Maybe you want to see it occasionally, I don't know. But it's just an example of like the keyword research robot is just looking for what seems related based on what it's seeing people search, but it doesn't have the context of your business to know that you don't have a free option or whatever.
All right. And then writing instructions, you can write instructions on a section by section basis. I actually think, yeah, here are some templates that I've written. I think I have one on AI content writing, so I can just automatically populate. This is kind of a take that I've written time and time again about Demandwell's view on AI writing, and I don't have to write it each time. I can just paste it whenever I need, and that's good enough for instructions there. And I will say, depending on how technical the article you're writing is, you're probably going to write more instructions. So there are some sections that are blank, and it'll just be the header and the paragraph keywords. And I feel like that's enough for the writer to write, plus the word count. I feel like that's enough a lot of the time. We do have an overall purpose section, and this middle section, I do rewrite for each outline just to give some more focused context. I shared some resources from our blog and from our features pages as like good context for this article for the writers to use. And I feel like that alone can give a lot of context for some of these blank sections. I did work with a customer that wrote an article about Kubernetes, or something that's just completely foreign to everyone on the planet. And the
Except for
instructions,
you're a pro now.
I still don't know what Kubernetes are, but the instructions were just full. Every single section, it was just like very detailed, because the writer is not going to know what they're writing about, and you have to make sure that like they get it right, or they get it close enough so that when you're editing it, it's still usable. You know, you don't really want to tell them like start it over. So you have to give them context where it's important. If there's any time that a section is like disconnected from the main purpose of the article up here, I feel like it's important to add some additional context. Whenever I want them to talk about a specific feature, I'll shout that out in the instructions and I'll paste a resource. But yeah, this is kind of my outline building process. When I'm finished, you can click review, and I use Google Drive. I click copy here and I just go over to a Google Doc and I paste the instructions there to share with our writers. That's how I use the tool.
Yeah, fantastic. So we've incorporated all the things, the H1s, the H2s, the keywords, the semantically related, the contextually related. And what else even is there? All the things, the expertise, the unique.
Yeah.
It's great.
And it's worth noting that our writers have a big Google Doc, like I talked about, where I talk about Demandwell, our mission, some of our features, our audience. So they have that context always, or they have that resource always whenever they're writing. But we just have like this long-term partnership with this agency that we've been working with for our writing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're basically at time. If anyone has like a final question, maybe we can squeeze it in. And otherwise, thank you so much for joining. We'll email out a recording of this webinar tomorrow morning. And Abby, Eric, thank you both so much. It's been fun. Hope to have you on the show again. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.